So, how are you going to best remember your friend, Steve Jobs?
I'm going to go back to, how young and naive we were in thinking out our original ideas. And we would look back now and say, oh my God, that sort of person, that sort of thinking could actually lead to what it led to. I'm going to remember him as always being a very quick mind, and almost all the time that we had discussions about how something should be done in a company, he was almost always right. And he had thought it out, and he had thought out why a product should go to the left instead of to the right. So, just really his intelligence, common sense, knowing what made sense in a product, what wasn't going to sell and what was going to sell, and when you should implement a new technology and be ahead of the world, and when maybe you should be a little bit of a follower, or when a lot of that. And it almost all boils down to the way he comes across from him. It's common sense. Nobody else had the common sense, though, so it was a lot more.
How close were you two?
And we were best friends for all the years leading up to Apple, maybe 5 or 7 years after we met. We would just go driving off faraway places to explore, music catalogs of Bob Dylan and people that had rare photographs of him, and we'd go to concerts together and we'd talk about where the world was going and philosophies and the counterculture movement and sort of this idea of young people and revolution, and we'd just do everything together that friends do. Go to movies and concerts and driving him up to college in Portland, Oregon. I remember that.
Sure. What do you think his legacy is going to be?
His legacy is pretty solid, just mostly being able to run the business Apple, take it so far, and create such great products. And I think creating the great products is what people remember the most. And I think that's what brings them something in their hearts and makes people happy. How many things do you own in the world that are, I just have to have this, I have to use it? And how many do you actually, I just depend on this. I actually enjoy doing my work on this product. And that's what Apple brought to so many people. And that's why there's so many strong fans, and they associate Steve with it because he was such a manager of the little details mattered. And little details, tiny little nuances in between one product and another make the huge difference. When we grew up, it was like Sony compared to maybe 10 other companies that made electronic products. Sony's were always just a little bit finer, and you could notice it. You couldn't put it in words. It's sort of something you feel, and that's how Apple products turn out.
What about Steve Jobs as a person? I mean, I think most people, when they think of Steve Jobs, they think Apple computers, Apple the brand. But what about him as a man? What was he like?
He was a very good friend to me. He was always respectful, never once did anything impolite to me like they say he did to other people. When Apple started, up till Apple started, we were very similar. And when it started, his direction was to go into running a corporation, learning how to run every little aspect and be in control and be in charge and the main thinker in a company. And mine was just to do excellent engineering for my phase of the role. So from that point in time, we were like different people in different categories. I'm shy. I don't want to run things. I don't want the big highlight world. I like to stay in the background. So, and Steve was always also a little bit afraid of competition and trying to push ahead, and we had to get there before somebody else does, and we have to go in the new technology direction, and we have to believe that our way is right even though they're sticking with the old way. The Macintosh experience hurt him a lot because we took the good approach to computers having mouses and menus, whereas all the PCs running on Microsoft software were going to stick with the old way. And why didn't the world go the new way? Why didn't Microsoft go the new, better way? And it was probably just too expensive, for what they could do at the time. But from then on, he always wanted to somehow find the way to do the different thing better and make it successful, not sort of fail like the Macintosh in terms of market share.
Sure. Many people have compared him to Walt Disney, Edison, even Einstein. Do you think that that's fair to put him in that kind of category? I
would put him more of those in the Walt Disney category. Edison was a real in-the-lab designer who actually did work and then became pretty much just a person who ran a successful company project after project. So that's not a totally unfair comparison, but Steve wasn't like a laboratory guy. Part of the problem was he was around me, his best friend, and I could just design anything and build it up and write all the code, and so he never did the real right down to the guts of the technology, the actual design, hardware, software. But managing it, understanding it, knowing who's got the true stories and who doesn't about what is possible and which technologies are good and can be applied to a new product. And he's also the sort of person who would see a technology and think this is what it can give a real person in the world, a user. So psychology-wise, he related so well to the users, the buyers of products. So marketing, I would say, was his greatest strength.
Now, did you ever talk to him recently? Did you ever both kind of reflect on your early days in the garage and creating Apple? Did you ever have that conversation with him recently?
Actually, for the last couple of years when he was calling, he always kind of brought up those days as being so important and fun, and he wanted to talk about them, but I never took the time to get into it because he's gone so far in his life. It's hard to go back to those little simple days when we were just clowning around and just thinking, oh, we might make a few bucks here, and we're just doing things moonlighting. Yeah, so we didn't get into it deeply, but he spoke about that almost every time, and he was even when he was on stage with Bill Gates, talking about those days with kind of a smile in his heart. You could see it. Yeah, so I think it was on his mind in the last days.
What do you think his legacy is going to be like here in the Bay Area?
Well, legacy is a young person who had basically nothing, no money, but had a brain. And started a company to bring the world new things that it never had before and to challenge the existing ways.
Do you think that it's going to be hard for anybody to sort of fill his shoes as the leader of Apple, the leader of that industry?
Well, one thing they've got going against them is it's already built up like a cult icon. And so a new leader that comes in a little bit might be in an untrusted category. How much of Apple's brand is due to the products it makes, at what price, and its marketing and everything, and how much of it is due to this mysterious image of Steve Jobs being there? I don't think in the short term. I mean, all the reports are really that in the short term nobody expects Apple to decline. So in the long term, I hope we always have a way to remember the formula, and it's going to really depend very strongly on the person at the top. Tim Cook is a very good person, but in the future, if Apple got a wrong person at the top, a company can fall down so fast and lose the greatness that Apple has. So I just hope that what Steve wanted is something that we all should live up to forever.
Any one little memory of you guys together when you were younger that just sort of always brings a smile?
Oh my God, a lot of them. Most of them were pranks, and some of them were, if they were legal, yeah, putting little pranks at our high school, having big signs come down when the seniors graduate with a sign flipping them off. Both of us would still laugh at those sort of things, or trying to get to the sprinkler valve into the building where the sprinkler valves were to turn the sprinklers on the parents during graduation. That sort of, yeah. A lot of those fun things. I laugh. I laugh at humorous things. And Steve, being a businessman, didn't have as much room for humor in his life. I could go on playing pranks my whole life because I wasn't running a company.
One last question. What can we expect in the coming days as far as memorials go? What's going to go on in Apple?
I don't know. Right now, it's pretty much pre-written statements that are just clean and get the message across. I don't know if there'll be memorials or whatever. Steve would have planned that. I'll just keep my ears to the wind, just like everyone.
All right. Anything else that we sort of missed about your friend that you think really that people that didn't know him should know about him?
He was critical of people that didn't perform well. Well, I guess everyone would know that. And I think that was a big part of Apple's success. And he clamped down very much on leaks and privacy. In other words, in the company, you don't leak information out. And I think that was really important to developing great products. Great products often come from very different ways of thinking. And if the whole world is around seeing it, you don't have a chance to even test it.